In about 4 weeks, the National Assembly is expected to resume plenary sessions, and little has been happening within the National Assembly complex. But the same cannot be said about happenings outside the Assembly. I can tell you that the issue of budget padding or mutilation, or as somebody else put it, insertions, yes, that issue is refusing to die down. It continues to generate allegations and commentaries. Welcome to this week's episode of the Gavel. We start off this week with a meeting convened by the House of Representatives Committee on Climate Change.
Members of the House of Representatives, top government officials and representatives of international agencies are gathered here to discuss the harmful effects of climate change and how they can be curbed. The gathering focused on a legislative agenda that will enhance Nigeria's climate resilience, which will cover efficient oversight for resource governance, green economy and the Paris Agreement. The chairman of the House Committee on Climate Change, Representative Sam Onibo, outlined some of the steps taken so far to address the climate change challenges.
We have taken unprecedented initial legislative steps to get cross-cutting MDAs on the same page of awareness, readiness, determination, and commitment to Nigeria's NDCs and Paris Agreement.
The representative of the Senate President at the event talks about the importance of some of the agreements reached in Paris.
For this international agreement to be credible, effective, and legally enforceable, it must be domesticated into national legislation with appropriate budgetary provision and robust oversight.
A participant at the round table who came in from South Africa appealed to Nigeria's authorities to implement the Paris Agreement.
The senators, the chairs of the standing committees, the members of the standing committees are responsible citizens and responsible legislatures. So with that assumption in mind, it would obviously be irresponsible not to adopt a green economy.
The controversy over the 2016 budget continues to rage, and this week, the former chairman of the House Committee on Appropriation, Representative Abdul Mumun Jibrin, continued with more tweets and comments on the matter. In one of the tweets, the lawmaker challenged the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara, to forward allegations against him to the anti-corruption agencies. Representative Jibrin also says he did not abuse his office, nor did he corruptly enrich himself during the 5 years he has been in the House of Representatives. In the last message sent at the end of the week, the lawmaker challenged the Speaker and some principal officers to a public debate over allegations that the 2016 budget was padded. According to the former chairman, the public debate will also be an avenue to consider the positions of the various groups on what exactly is wrong or right about the action of the lawmakers. Well, while the Speaker has not reacted to the challenge of a public debate, he has been speaking on some of the issues that have been thrown up by this controversy.
Members of civil society organizations and members of the House of Representatives at the interactive session on a one-year review of the legislative agenda of the 8th House of Assembly. Present is the Speaker of the House and some other principal officers of the House. The occasion gave the Speaker a chance to outline the role of the legislature in ensuring that a budget reflects the desires of Nigerians.
If you contend that we cannot tinker with the appropriation bill, therefore it goes without saying that we cannot tinker with any executive bill. Because if they bring a bill on EFCC, for instance, or any other thing, if it is an executive bill, and maybe because the executive will not consult civil society groups to say, oh, come for public hearing, we want to present a budget, we want to draft a bill. They don't do that. It's the legislature that does that by the instrumentality of the public hearing. And when we aggregate your views, it is only our duty as a representative of the people, representing the civil society, the people's civil society represent, to make sure that your voices are reflected in the laws. So by the time we have heard from you and we now say, oh, we're introducing a clause into an executive bill, and the bill goes to the president, he signs, they say, oh, some people have padded the bill. And they have forgotten about the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act. Most of the things we do in National Assembly, they are privileged. They cannot be grounds for any investigation or any procedure or proceedings in court to be commenced against a member of parliament, either the speaker or even the Senate president, once they are done in exercise of their proper functions. The law is there. Go and read the whole provision of the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act. Those communications, whatever it is, they're all privileged. Has there been any country where parliamentarians have been cautioned or interrogated for performing their constitutional responsibility of making a law? The worst that can happen is that if anyone disagrees with the law, he takes it before the court. That's the beauty of checks and balances, separation of powers. You go to court and say, oh, there are key parliamentary processes and procedures that were not observed in the course of doing this thing. Then the court can set it aside. Maybe they can say it's illegal because certain things were not done, or it's unconstitutional if the provision of the Constitution was breached.
According to the Speaker, the House is determined to reform the project selection process in the country.
As civil society, I want to challenge us to one thing. Just take the budget, for instance, of a particular ministry. Look at where the directors come from. Look at where some of the key officials, I don't even want to mention their names, just assess where they come from and then look at the allocations in that ministry. So the biggest challenge we have before us is to address this, the integrity of the project selection process. If you come from a constituency, like mine, for instance, let me give an example of myself. Right now, we don't have a PAMSEC anywhere. We don't have a director anywhere. So if you look at the 2016 budget, if it were to go as proposed by the executive, there's no single federally funded borehole of even if it is 15 naira, there's no 15 naira meant for any project in my 3 local governments. Why? Because I don't have anybody where they are preparing or sharing this and making allocations in the budget. So if it were not for the instrumentality of the zonal intervention, or what is loosely known as constituency projects, how can I attract even the siting of one federally funded borehole in my constituency in 4 years? The answer is none. Then how do I get elected into the House again?
Afterwards, some of the participants give their perspective on the event.
The Speaker of the House only confirmed some of the views we have expressed publicly, that the question of alteration of the appropriation bill, amendment, addition or padding, as we to put it in Nigerian speak, is within the powers of the purse of the National Assembly, not only of the House of Representatives.
They understand the fact that the issue of execution of projects has nothing to do with Parliament, has nothing to do with their core functions, but it has everything to do with our own brand of democracy, where a member is not really re-elected to Parliament on the basis of the number of bills he has proposed, the number of motions he moved, and so on and so forth. But he's re-elected based on the number of projects he has attracted, the number of boreholes they have seen him sink, and so on and so forth. So I think that we need to review the budget and budgetary process to make it more transparent and also to make it more participatory, so that the Nigerian people, we know that a budget process is on, we know some of the issues in the budget, and also we know when budgets have been executed and when budgets have not been executed.